When I was a kid, my favorite media to consume outside of cartoons was stuff that had animals in it, whether it was books or movies or cartoons. I read them when I got into junior high as a preteen. I picked up this series of books called the Myth series by Robert Asprin, and I had this realization that I had always been a fantasy geek and I just didn't know it. I'd always watched it, but now I was seeking out fantasy books and movies with intent. So I'd also grown up on the Rankin Bass Hobbit, and one of my teachers in junior high had us read The Hobbit, and I liked it. It was good. In fact, I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it. And then we went to my grandma's house and discovered the Rankin Bass Return of the King. And I watched it and I was like, I gotta read Lord of the Rings. Now, my dad and my oldest brother love Lord of the Rings. My dad had always said that you gotta read Lord of the Rings at the right time, because the first time he picked up the books, he couldn't get into it. But the second time he picked them up, he couldn't put them down. And he was like losing out on sleep because he had to go to work. And he wanted to read the books late at night. I don't know how old my dad was at the time. I'm guessing in his early 20s. But anyways, I've always kind of felt like you got to read Lord of the Rings when you're ready to. Well, after seeing the Return of the King cartoon, I was ready to read Lord of the Rings. So one summer I disappeared and I went to Middle Earth. I read Lord of the Rings and my friends didn't know where I was for several weeks because I was just holed up in my room at home during summer break just reading Lord of the Rings, and I couldn't stop. I was so emotionally invested, and I've been a huge Lord of the Rings fan since. I haven't gone back. And one of my favorite things about Lord of the Rings was discovering elves. Elves are the first time I'd ever felt as a crazy animal person growing up. Elves were the first humanoids that I felt outside of mermaids and fairies and centaurs were my people. I love, like I said, I love nature. I love animals. I love all that stuff. I'm a little bit of a hippie. I want to hug trees and stuff. But on the other hand, I'm also an artist and I love creating beautiful things and making things, and so do the elves. And I also really gravitated to their dual nature, where they were described as being both old and young at the same time. And I've always felt that way. That in many ways I kind of have this complex dual nature. So I was just like, these are my people. And I've tried to embody elves ever since. And my friends were like, where were you all summer? I was like, I was in Middle Earth. And they're like, what's that? And I kept trying to tell them about Lord of the Rings for years. And they're like, okay, Alfie. I think it's a book my parents read back in the 70s. And the movies weren't out yet. The Peter Jackson movies weren't out yet. But I appreciate that my friends paid enough attention to me that when Marcy Playground came out with the album that had Sex and Candy on it, there was another song on that album called The Cloaking Robe of Elvenkind, and my friends were like, we have to show this to Elfie. And they did. And I love it. So if you've never heard it, look up the Marcy Playground Cloaking Robe of Elvenkind. It was one of the only geeky songs about elves that I knew about back in the 90s. So yeah, I thought that was a really sweet gesture. When the movies came out, all my friends finally understood why I loved Lord of the Rings so much. And yeah, I almost, the first time we saw a trailer, I almost yanked my best friend's arm off. I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, Lord of the Rings! And it was during the crappy Final Fantasy Spirits Within movie. It did not help that movie one bit. I was like, I don't care about this movie. There's a Lord of the Rings trailer.